Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a hidden movement game, which is not a genre that I particularly like, but this was sent to me regardless, even though the publisher knew that I didn't like hidden movement games. We're going to take a look at Specter Ops, which is being co-published, I guess, by Nazca Games, and everybody's favorite publisher, although, well, not everybody's, but a very popular publisher, Plaid Hat Games, which has had recent success with, well, pretty much all of their titles. But this is a hidden movement game in which one player will be playing an agent trying to infiltrate a location in order to complete objectives, and the other players will be playing hunters trying to find that agent and stop them from completing their objective, either by just routing them around or killing them. Sorry. Real quick, why don't we take a look at what makes this hidden movement game different from the others. We'll see how it plays, and then we'll come back and get my opinions on Specter Ops at the end. So here you can see the components for Specter Ops. Now it's set up for a 2 or 3 player game, either one agent player, and the agent is the hidden movement player, and one hunter, which is controlling 2 actual characters, or the agent and 2 hunters, each controlling 1 character. Now, if you're familiar with a hidden movement game like Letters from Whitechapel or Scotland Yard, this game is very much so in the same vein. The idea here is that one agent, the invisible character, or the one moving secretly, is trying to reach several objectives that you can see on the board, and that's these blue tiles. These are determined randomly before the game starts. You actually roll a die in order to determine where they're going to be placed. And in the 2 and 3 player game, they're placed on the board. In the 4 player game, they're actually invisible, so only the agent character knows where they're at. The same is true in the 5 player game, that you don't see them and they're only revealed when they're completed. So it's a little bit harder to determine where you're trying to go as the hunter. Now in the game, the hunter will be trying to locate the agent while the agent's moving around secretly. And so the agent player is going to come in from an entrance. The entrance is right here. They're going to be trying to leave from an exit. The exits are at the edge of the board. They'd be marked with little tokens. So dependent on which version of the game you're playing, you can mark the exits on the side of the board. But basically, they're all on the edges of the board. There's one here at W3, A3, and you can use N1 as an exit as well at this point. These could change dependent on the number of players. Also on this board, you can see one other marker, which is here on K17. This could also move with more players, but this is the vehicle, and it's currently where our hunters are at. They start in the vehicle, and this is kind of something different in hidden movement games. It's a separate kind of entity that can be moved by the hunters and allows them to move further. So they can jump in this vehicle and go further than they normally could. More on that in a moment. Each of these hunters has their own figure, and they start in this vehicle. One, in this case, we've got the Beast, who's kind of a werewolfy type thing. And I have also chosen the Puppet, which is kind of a machine that can also control the car remotely. But there's like a couple other ones. There's let's go through these right here. So you can see we have the Gun, who is kind of a sniper, a little bit more focused on dealing damage, and we have the Prophet, who is kind of, well, precognitive or post-cognitive, which I'll have to explain. But these all have special abilities, so the Gun does more damage easily when he shoots people, which is going to be an important part of this game, and the Prophet has a better chance of knowing where people are at and finding out where they were, which can be important for figuring out where the agent is at. The agent is going to have a secret character. So the hunters are known, the agent will be secret. They could be the orangutan, who just has more hit points than anybody else, 6 instead of 4. They could be Cobra, who is a ninja, and will stun the players if they end up next to them or on them. And Spider is just hard to hit when you're near her. So the further you are, the little bit better, at least for trying to hit that person when you're shooting at them. The one we have is Blue Jay. The players don't know this, but Blue Jay is out there, and Blue Jay can complete mission objectives when she's 2 spaces away from them instead of 1. Blue Jay has also gotten to choose some cards that she can use throughout the game. These cards are kind of items that she has the opportunity to use once per turn if she would like, but they have a limited number of uses. So for example, she has Adrenal Surge, which says she does not reveal this card when she uses it, but she can move up to 6 spaces instead of 4, and then it's used. She has also chosen Hollow Decoy, which says do not reveal this card, but you have to place a token on the board saying that you were seen within 4 spaces of Blue Jay's actual location, and then use the movement sheet to secretly note the round where this was used. So she puts up a decoy, being like she was seen, but wasn't really seen. And finally, she's chosen a Grenade, which says to reveal the card and put a flashbang token on the board up to 4 spaces away of the agent's location. All hunters that can see this lose their vision until the start of the turn, and if your agent is visible at the start of the turn, place it on the board. So basically, she has a couple of items to help her lose the hunters. The agent player will also have a map of the entire board. So this board has all of these quadrants. It's divided into 4 quadrants with 1 objective in each quadrant. But furthermore, has indicators of where the objectives will be, and they'll be circled, and numbers and letters for each of the rows and columns where they're at. It also has a hit point marker with more hit points if that player is in a 4-player game, and will also tell you where escape points and mission objectives are. The first turn of the game will be taken by the agent player, the hidden player, and they're going to move in from this starting point and try and move their way towards one of the objectives. And they can move 4 spaces in a game, orthogonally or diagonally. And they're simply going to mark where they move on this sheet. So I have a filled out example over here. Not filled out perfectly, she's just circling the end point, but basically they're going to circle where they're moving from point to point, and they're going to mark down their final spot on the side here as they do so. So they can move up to 4 spaces, and then before or after their movement they can use one of their items, but remember that those items are 1 uses usually, so you only get them once per game. A couple of those change that rule, so there's extra items that you might have. After they're done moving, they'll write down their final spot on here, and then the agents will take their move. Now, if the hunters will take their move. If the person was seen while they're moving, we'll get into that in a little bit, but the agent will be moving. Hunters. It's really hard to remember. Agent, hunters. The hunters will take their turns moving, and the hunters can also move up to 4 spaces, orthogonally or diagonally. Now they start in the car, and they can move this car up to 10 spaces. But let's say, for example, that the first player, we'll say that Beast goes first, moves it 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The car can only move on roads which are separated by these dashed lines, and now he can exit the car, saying he wants to get out right here. That would end his turn. Now the other player could move the car 5 more spaces up to a total of 10. So they could, say, for example, move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exit the car there. However, you'll see that it can only be a total of 10 movement with the car, and getting into or exiting the car ends your movement. Now, once we're done, the agent player will have to determine whether or not they were seen and whether or not they are currently seen. So as the player moves across roads or anything like that, they might have to indicate that one of the hunters saw them. And if they do, they would put out a token on the board to show where they were last seen if they're not currently visible. So this, for example, could indicate that the player was seen at 06 for some reason. Maybe on the second turn they move through here, and they move into this space, but then into P6 and are now hidden from the player. They would indicate they were last seen at 06. If they're actually visible at the end of the hunter's turn, the hunter has the option of shooting at the player and will want to shoot at the player because damaging the agent is one way to end the game. The agent has 4 hit points, and if they take 4 damage throughout the game, they will die and lose. Before, of course, they finish 3 of these 4 objectives on the board by ending next to them. In order to hit a player, a hunter will roll a die, and they need to roll a number equal than or greater than the distance to where the person is standing. So let's say that instead of being last visible, our agent is standing right there, and the puppet rolls a 4. In this case, he'll deal 1 damage to the agent, and the agent has taken 1 of 4 damage needed to kill her. So that's how you're going to deal damage to this person. Now, as I said, the objective of the agent is to get over next to these different control or objective points and stand there at the start of her turn. If she's standing there at the start of her turn, this will flip over and become a completed objective for our agent. And she needs to complete 3 of these and then exit the board at one of our exit points before 40 rounds are up. If 40 rounds pass and the hunter players are able to stop the agent from getting away, or able to stop her by killing her, they will win the game. Otherwise, if this player manages to get out by completing 3 objectives and ending before the 40th turn, they will win the game. Now, there's a couple of kind of twists to this. Obviously, you can get back into or out of this car, which allows you to move faster. But each of our players, our hunter players, has some special abilities as well. For example, the beast has enhanced senses, which says that if he moves, instead of moving 4 spaces, he only moves 3 spaces or less. The agent must tell them if they are within 4 spaces of the beast, because he can smell them. So the slower he moves, the better his smell or senses are. Additionally, if he ends his movement on a space with the agent, he rolls a die, and if he rolls that die a 5+, he deals an extra damage to that agent. So that he always deals 1 if he lands on her, but will deal 1 extra if, of course, he is standing with there and rolls the die appropriately. Finally, he can move 5 spaces, but if he does so, he can only attack an agent that he lands on. So he has to land exactly on the person instead of getting to shoot them. The puppet has his own abilities. He can actually control the car, even if he's not in the car. So he can move the car without being in it. And additionally, there is a motion sensor on that car that he can activate without being in it as well. So instead of moving the puppet, he can activate the motion sensor. And what that motion sensor does is if the agent moved more than 3 spaces on their previous turn, it will tell the players what general direction the agent is in. So it could be north, south, east, or west, or more likely it'll be southeast, northeast, southwest, or northwest. But it gives the players a general direction of which they need to move in order to catch the agent. So there's a couple of other small intricacies like you can stun the agents, or sorry, the hunters, and when they're stunned, they can't move as much and they don't get to shoot. But for the most part, the objective of the players is going to be to pin down an area that the agent is in and shoot that agent to death or stop them from getting to the various locations in order to activate them and complete the objectives before they can escape. And if our hunters are able to stop the agent, the hunters will win, otherwise the agents will win. And that is Specter Ops. And there you have it. That is Specter Ops from Nazca Games and Plaid Hat Games. So, as I said at the beginning, I'm not really a hidden movement fan, and so take everything I say here with a little bit of a grain of salt, I guess. But overall, this is a hidden movement game that I rather enjoy, definitely more than some of the other ones out there. I hate Letters from Whitechapel, and this is very much so similar to that in its core, right? It's a hidden movement game, one player trying to evade the other players and complete objectives and escape. Right, it's the core of hidden movement. But this one does it in a way where I don't hate it. Matter of fact, I actually kind of like it. The key to this is some of the added elements that they've put into here. The special abilities of not only the agent, which is has been done before. The agent or the secret player has some special abilities to help them evade the other players. That's been done. But the hunter players having special abilities gives it a nice kind of maybe fair feel to it, where it's not impossible to find the players. The agent player. I feel like it's a little bit easier to locate the agent player. Maybe the map is smaller, I'm not sure, I haven't compared, or maybe the special abilities really make that much of a difference. But it kind of has that minis game feel crossed with this hidden movement feel, where you have a mini with special abilities moving around, and maybe if you move less, you can sense further, or if you're the gun and you happen to see them, you can shoot twice, or you can deal more damage, or whatever it might be. You also have that car, which kind of speeds movement around the board. If you've made a mistake, you can hop in the car and sweep across the board really quickly if you need to. So kind of a catch-up mechanic there, utilizing that car to get you around the board. The game also has, and I failed to mention, a 4 and 5 player mode. In the 4-player mode, I think I did say that the objectives simply aren't on the board, and the player has more hit points. The agent player has more hit points, so they can live a little bit longer because there's 3 players trying to shoot them down. In the 5-player game, there's actually a traitor element introduced. So there's 4 hunters and 1 agent, but one of the hunters has a secret card. Each player has a roll card, and one of the hunters has a secret card saying that he's a traitor. And basically, when the agent moves through his sight, he doesn't have to report it. So he can see the agent. He can have him be previously seen, but doesn't have to say anything. However, if another hunter notices this, the hunter becomes a secondary agent and has to help the primary agent complete the objectives and escape the board before the end of the game. So a little bit of a traitor element there, assisting the agent player to finish their objective in a 5-player game. Overall, I think a very interesting take on hidden movement. If you're a fan of hidden movement, or maybe even if you're not really, if you found them to be a little bit too frustrating for you, check out Specter Ops. I think it might be something that would be interesting to you. I certainly find it to be better than all of the other hidden movement games that I've played.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.